So before we get into today's courtroom drama, if you haven't already watched my day one recap, go check that out right now. Because over there, we broke down the hush money paid to Israel Flores and the jaw-dropping testimony of male escort Daniel Phillip, including how he claimed Diddy invited him to parties where favors weren't optional. But today was Cassie's day, and it was heavy. So let's get into it. What's up, y'all? Thank you for tuning into the Culture Debrief, where we break down the latest drama in Black culture. Because let's be real, if we don't talk about it, who will? So court resumed with Diddy's legal team, led by defense attorney Xavier Donaldson, coming straight to Daniel Phillip's credibility. You know, the male escort from day one who said he was invited to Diddy's freak parties and paid to stay silent. So today, the defense tried to paint him as a bitter opportunist. They even accused him of being low-key obsessed with Cassie. Donaldson straight up asked if Daniel wanted Cassie for himself, and Daniel admitted on the record that he was attracted to her, and if she ever gave him the chance to date him, he absolutely would have. Yikes, bad optics. The jury probably blinked twice after that one. But Daniel stood firm. He denied ever making a move on her or trying to sabotage her relationship with Diddy. Still, the defense is trying to paint the seed that jealousy, not justice, is why Daniel is testifying. So now this is where things got even messier. As Cassie prepared to testify about one of the darkest moments of her life, her claim that Diddy raped her in 2018, her husband, Alex Fine, who was in the courtroom to support her, was told to leave. The judge sided with the defense, saying that because Combs' team may call Alex Fine to testify later in the trial, he couldn't be present for this part. Even though he's not just a potential witness, he's also her emotional support system, the father of her child and her husband. But prosecutors pushed back hard, saying Cassie needed him there as she relived traumatic events while pregnant with their third child. But the judge still said no, so Alex Fine had to walk out, leave Cassie on the stand alone, vulnerable and visibly shaken. So now Cassie began her testimony with trembling hands, taking deep breaths between questions. She described her relationship with Diddy as going from romantic highs to terrifying lows, violent arguments, physical abuse, and psychological manipulation. She said, in her words, if they were violent arguments, it would usually result in some sort of physical abuse, dragging, just different things. That different things included being kicked, stomped on the head, and dragged by her hair. When asked how often he was violent, she quietly responded, too frequently. So let that sink in. And then came the freak-offs. So we knew the phrase freak-offs was going to come back again, but this time we got more details. Cassie said she was introduced to these sexual encounters when she was barely 22 years old. She described them as encounters organized by Diddy, sometimes involving multiple partners, sometimes involving drugs, and almost always involving pressure and manipulation. She said, I was confused, nervous, but also loved him very much. When he first brought it up, my stomach dropped. I didn't know what no could have turned into. She testified that the longest freak-off lasted 4 days. 4 days. And she wasn't just describing wild parties. These were marathon sessions filled with ecstasy, dehydration, and emotional collapse. She said she needed time just to recover and feel human again afterwards. And this wasn't a one-time thing. Cassie called the freak-offs a job. Literally, she said there were no space to do anything else but recover and try to feel normal again. Now, if you're wondering why Cassie never said anything sooner, I want you to ask yourself, how do you say no to someone who has blackmail videos of you in freak-offs? And how do you say no when you're emotionally trapped? She testified that she couldn't even miss a phone call. If she didn't answer Diddy right away, she would get multiple calls and his security team would start chasing her down too. She was never alone, not really. Cassie said she recorded hundreds of songs, had 9 albums that never got released, and saw her entire music career disappear. Why? Because Diddy kept her occupied with freak-offs and submission. It was like she existed to serve him and not to grow as an artist. And if you want to talk about grooming and coercion, Cassie said that she was sexually inexperienced when she met Diddy. She was 17 years old, remember that. Their first time happened on a boat in Miami after he gave her wine and ecstasy, and she said, I didn't know what would happen. Even years later, she still feared for what a no might bring, violence, public shame, or having her trauma posted online. And y'all, here's the line that really kind of broke me. She said Diddy routinely criticized her looks. At one point, he told her that she looked too Mexican because of a certain hairstyle, and he policed her appearance down to the finest details. He preferred white French tip nails and wanted her to work out regularly to get her body ready for the next freak-offs. So imagine your abuser prepping you like you're a damn gladiator in the sex Olympics. And remember how we thought the freak-offs couldn't get more disturbing? Cassie described them as choreographed experience. A Vegas stripper, hotel rooms drenched in baby oils, blow-up pools filled with lube, not 1, not 2, but 10 jumbo-sized bottles of baby oil to make sure she glistened for hours. Combs would stop the action to yell that she looked dry and make her reapply every 5 minutes. So yeah, the man stopped sex to yell about dry skin like he was running a twisted skincare boot camp, and it wasn't luxury, it was humiliation. Cassie even said to herself during one of these setups, "What are we doing?" Oh, and just in case you forgot that Diddy still believes he's in a gangster movie, Cassie testified that during one freak off in LA, Diddy left in the middle of it to go confront Suge Knight at Mel's Diner down the street. Bodyguard runs in saying Suge Knight's nearby, and Diddy allegedly jumps up, throws on all black, grabs gun from a safe, and rolls out with his security team like it's Fast and Furious Bad Boys edition. Cassie says she was crying, screaming, and begging him not to do anything stupid, but she was ignored. And she said, "It's like I wasn't even there." And when he came back, he never even said what happened. She said she was supposed to wipe the baby oil off and pretend none of it existed. So Cassie also broke down how Diddy bought her silence and then punished her financially when she stepped out of line. He gave her car, cash, gifts, but snatched them away depending on his mood. Not because she did anything wrong, but because he could. When asked what else he took away, she answered, "My self-confidence." And get this, his staff participated in these punishments. If she upsets him, they'll take away her phone, her laptop, her privacy, her connection to the world. She was in daily contact with them, and that the team helped enforce every consequence he cooked up in his head. She named names too. Christian Corham, if I said it wrong, Miss Fletcher, and D-Rock, who allegedly was part of Diddy's security detail. These weren't just side characters, by the way. These were active enablers in her day-to-day trauma. Also, court documents revealed an email where she called Diddy Pop Pop. When asked about it, Cassie explained Diddy wanted her to call him what she called her grandfather. At the time, she just went with it, but now she found it degrading and creepy because it was. Another message showed Cassie texting Diddy, "I really need to fuck." She clarified that she sent it because she still wanted to be with him despite the fear, the manipulation, and the trauma. That message was brought up to suggest that maybe she wanted it all, but she shut that down quick. She said that even when asked if she wanted to stop, her response were coded in fear because saying no to Diddy didn't feel like an option. Her whole life had taught her that a no would come with consequences. And then, this is probably the hardest part to hear, Cassie testified that she responded to escort ads that Diddy showed her from Craigslist and Backpages. When asked if she ever looked for escorts on her own, she said no, she never did that. She did because she was told to. Then came the most vile detail of the entire day. Cassie testified that Diddy urinated on her. Not once, but often enough. She said no one could ever think I wanted it. She says she choked from the amount of urine in her mouth, and when asked if she ever consented to it, she said no, it was disgusting. So let that sit for a moment. A woman sitting in open court, pregnant, testifying under oath, saying she was urinated on against her will, that's not degrading. That's not even sexual violence. That's ritual humiliation. And then the Intercontinental Hotel in New York had to fully redecorate an entire room because of the damage caused by Diddy's sexual preference. And that was the courtroom testimony. So now let's take a step back. This trial isn't just about Cassie and Diddy. It's not just about one woman's testimony or even a long toxic relationship. What we're watching unfold in the Manhattan courtroom is the slow public peeling back of a system that had protected men with money, fame, and power for decades. Diddy, Sean Combs, isn't some C-list artist trying to stay relevant. He's the blueprint. He was the culture for an entire generation. He was the bad boy turned mogul, the entrepreneur turned kingmaker. From Biggie to Ciroc to Revolt, he has been hailed as a symbol of black excellence, of hustle, of making it out. But what happens when the empire you built was allegedly founded on intimidation, abuse, and silence? We've seen these kind of allegations before. R. Kelly, Russell Simmons, Harvey Weinstein, and every time people say, well, why didn't she leave? Or why now? But this trial answers that exact questions in real time. Because when a man has money, lawyers, security, access to drugs, control over your career, and even blackmail footage of your most vulnerable moments, you're not in a relationship. You're in captivity with Wi-Fi. Cassie described a life where saying no wasn't an option, where her body was currency and her talents was sidelined for sexual exploitation. She said the freak-offs became her job. That's just not abuse, that's trafficking. And the fact that people are still trying to romanticize their relationship, that they call her bitter, that they said that she's trying to get a bag, that's the kind of things that protects predators. That's the kind of things that tell young girls your silence is more vulnerable than your safety. What we're witnessing isn't just a trial. It's an unmasking of a man, of a system, of a culture that tells women to suffer in silence if the abuser is rich enough, talented enough, or charming enough. But maybe this is the moment where silence breaks, where the receipts, the tapes, the witnesses, and yes, the tears finally matter. And if they do, that changes everything. So if you made it to the end of the video, thank you for watching, but don't stop here. Go ahead and like this video, comment your thoughts below. Do you believe Cassie? Do you think this trial will finally hold someone like Diddy accountable? And most importantly, subscribe to the Culture Debrief and turn on your post notification because this trial is far from over. And I'll be here every step of the way to break it all down for you. The testimonies, the manipulation, the power plays, and the truth behind the glitz and glitter.